Subscribe to Man Told for more stories. Now, let's begin this one. My father passed away, right as I was calling my wife, but she didn't pick up. I called again, still busy. 3 minutes later, a text popped up. I'm in a meeting. Is it urgent? I sat there, alone, by the hospital bed, still holding my father's cold hand. I didn't know what hurt more, losing the man who gave me life, or the cold absence of the woman I'd lived with for almost 20 years. That night, I didn't sleep. I didn't cry either. I just knew something was wrong, terribly wrong. For some reason, I pulled out an old iPad from the drawer, the one I'd used years ago, to track Elena's car. After she'd gotten stuck in a storm, I'd forgotten it was still there. But this time, it lit up. Her car was parked at a riverside hotel, more than 15 miles from her school. And more importantly, I'd never once been there with her. I switched to satellite view. 3rd floor. Curtains pulled tight. Under the dim yellow streetlight, I saw a man walk out of the lobby. Couldn't see his face. But that wasn't me. And it shouldn't have been me. I didn't ask. Didn't accuse. I just closed the iPad and sat in the dark. The room felt colder than any winter I've ever known. The next morning, Elena came home. She kissed my forehead and softly asked, "How's your dad?" I nodded, my voice hoarse. "He's gone. Last night." She froze, then said, "I'm sorry." The meeting ran long. I forgot to call back. I looked in her eyes, and for the first time, I knew she wasn't my Elena anymore. Just a stranger, clinging to a script she didn't even believe. 19 years together. I don't know when she started lying. All I know is the night my father died, the first person I called couldn't pick up because she was with a man whose name wasn't in her phone. And me, her husband, had never been saved. In the moment she called, "Busy. My name is Samuel Carter, 46. I'm a civil engineer in Seattle. Not a glamorous job, but it feels good knowing I've left something useful. Every time I drive past a bridge I helped build. I'm not much of a talker. Never wrote a poem. Never remembered the words to a song. But I remember every time my wife caught a cold, every vaccination date for our kids, every burnt-out bulb I replaced in the house. Small things, but things I believe a good man should know. I met Elena when I was 24. She taught English to immigrant kids at night. We met at a friend's wedding, and what I remember most wasn't the cake or the dress. It was the way she knelt down, carefully untangling a piece of candy from a little girl's hair, as if the whole world had slowed down just for her. She made me feel clumsy, and for the first time in my life, I was afraid to say the wrong thing and lose the chance to hear her speak again. Elena didn't choose me for money. Back then, I had nothing but an old pickup and a pair of concrete-stained boots. She chose me because I always came home, even if I was late. "I don't need you to be impressive," she once said. "I just need someone who won't quit halfway." We married 2 years later, bought a small house in West Seattle. Not big, but with a backyard where Lily could grow vegetables and Noah could build an insect observation station. I built a wooden shed by hand. Took me 3 weekends, but Elena said it was better than anything we could buy. We had 2 kids. Noah, 17, quiet, reserved like me, once thought about becoming a carpenter. Lily, 14, quick-witted, wrote in a purple ink journal, like her mom. I still remember taking Noah to preschool for the first time. He clung to my leg, sobbing, refusing to let go, and Elena stood behind us, eyes red, trying to smile, and failing. That's when I thought, being a husband, a father, is about being the one they can lean on when they feel small. Life wasn't luxurious, but it was enough. I worked mornings, always home before dinner. Weekends were for fixing things, taking the family to the park, grilling in the backyard. Elena would read on the porch, Lily's legs draped over her lap. Noah filming nature clips with a tiny camera. Sometimes I'd stand there and think, if there's a next life, I'd choose this one again. But here's the strange thing. Some cracks appear early. We just don't notice when we're happy. I can't remember exactly when I first felt it. It didn't hit like a storm. It seeped in, like water, finding its way through tiny, hidden breaks. It started with her phone. Elena began carrying it everywhere, even into the shower. No more message previews on the lock screen. Then one day, the password changed. I joked, Got a secret bank account I should know about. She laughed. The school told us to tighten security. Student privacy. I nodded. I believed her. Not because I was naive, but because I wanted to believe. Then our daughter spoke up at dinner. Dad, yesterday I saw Mom crying in the car. She said it was just a sad podcast. Podcast. Elena always hated noise while driving. I smiled and said, maybe she's listening to one of those sad Korean dramas. But my heart wasn't smiling. Elena changed, subtly. New haircut. New perfume. Morning yoga. Tight dresses. 40 now. Gotta take care of myself, she said. I agreed, but deep down, I felt left out. I used to be the one she asked, does this look good on me? Now she'd turn in front of the mirror, smile at herself, and nod. She was looking for someone's approval, and it wasn't mine. One night, while fixing the kitchen faucet, her phone lit up. Thanks. Sleep well. No name, no number, no icon. I didn't open it. I just watched it fade away, as if it had never appeared. And slowly, I faded too. At dinner, Elena would talk with the kids about school, books, new projects. I'd chime in with a comment or two. No one replied. Not on purpose. Not out of malice. Just, they'd grown used to me as the listener, not the one they needed to answer. I sat there at my own dinner table, listening to laughter. I no longer knew how to join, and I began to understand. Sometimes, you're not left behind by a breakup. You're left behind by 1,000 little things. No one bothers to explain. And that night, when I called to tell her my father had passed, and the line was busy, I knew my suspicions weren't just feelings anymore. They were the truth. I sat alone, by my father's hospital bed. The phone lay face down on my lap. He'd closed his eyes. Just 10 minutes ago. The room was cold. The ceiling light was a dull yellow. And there were no tears, just an emptiness, draining everything out of me. I called Elena. Busy signal. 3 minutes later, a text. I'm in a meeting. What's going on? I read it again. And again, a Tuesday night. Hour 7:80 p. Your husband tells you his father has died, and you're in a meeting. My head burned, not with anger, but shock. A low ringing filled my ears. My chest tightened. I tried to breathe in. Nothing came. Like hitting the brakes, and finding they don't work. I quietly opened the old iPad. The tracking app was still there. The one I'd installed, in case Elena ever had trouble. Coming home late from work. The green dot appeared. Clear? Willow Heights Hotel. 3rd floor. Not the school. Not her mother's. Not anyone we knew. Just a riverside hotel. With an Italian restaurant downstairs. A discreet bar. And heavy curtains. I looked at the satellite view. The row of rooms facing the river. Light seeping through the curtains. I pictured her there. With someone. I set the iPad down. Tried to stand. But my legs gave way. My hands shook. I gripped the bed frame to steady myself. I didn't call back. Didn't send another message. From that moment on, every sound in the room seemed to vanish. Even my own thoughts. The next morning, Elena came home. She came in through the side door. Took off her scarf. Shook her hair loose. Exhaled a long breath. Then she saw me in the kitchen. She stopped. You didn't sleep. I glanced at the clock. Dad's gone. She stood still for a beat, then walked closer. Her hand on my shoulder. I'm sorry. The meeting ran late. I didn't think. I nodded. No questions. No push for answers. Because if someone truly wants you to know the truth, they'll tell you the first time. 3 days later, the funeral. Small. Warm. Elena was there. But not really there. She sat beside me. Eyes on her phone, more than the service. Not once did she touch my hand. Not even when I read the eulogy. No hug. No quiet, are you okay? The whole time, I felt like a stranger in a black suit, in a room full of people I knew. That night, after the kids went to bed, I opened the laptop. I logged into our joint account, something I'd never really studied closely before. And there it was, 3 payments to Briarwood Bistro, a place we'd never been, a receipt for a bottle of niche perfume, the kind Elena once called ridiculously overpriced, and a hotel booking, the exact night my father died. I opened the PDF. The guest name wasn't Elena. It was M. Walters. I'd never heard that name. It wasn't in her contacts. Not on her Facebook. Not in any story she'd told me in 19 years. That name didn't exist in my life, but it existed on the hotel bill, the place my wife had been. The night I lost my father, I didn't confront her, didn't explode. I just watched. A week later, Elena mentioned a 3-day teacher training. She stood folding clothes into a suitcase. Her voice even. I might stay at a hotel near the conference center. Don't want to drive back and forth. I sat at the kitchen table, hands around a cold cup of coffee. I didn't ask, when will you be back? I didn't ask, who's going with you? I just said, bring a coat. Nights are cold there. She looked up, maybe surprised I didn't react. But by then, I'd stopped hoping for an explanation. The chance came on a Saturday morning. She left her phone on the kitchen counter. While rinsing a glass, it lit up, unlocked. I didn't snoop, just glanced, like a reflex. The message was clear. I'm 10 minutes early, same as always. You still like the 3rd floor? A few seconds later, Elena replied, yeah, be right down. Don't let the staff see you. My chest tightened, like someone was squeezing my heart barehanded. Not a sharp pain, a deep one, cold, straight down my spine. I turned away before she could see my face. My hand gripped the back of the chair until my knuckles went white. I knew I shouldn't cry, but my eyes stung, like I'd breathed in smoke. That night, after everyone was asleep, I sat alone in the garage. I dug through a box of old papers, the kind Elena would toss in there and forget, and I found something that shouldn't exist. A cash withdrawal receipt from a secondary account, in the name E. L. Carter, sub. The contact address wasn't our home. It was a private P.O. box in Mercer Island. She wasn't just having an affair. She'd been preparing to leave me, with her own plan, a world I'd never been invited into. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual. Elena was still asleep, her face turned inward, hair spilling over half the pillow. I stood there for a few minutes, not to hold on, but to say goodbye to the image I'd loved. For almost 2 decades, I used to think, if I lost everything else, as long as she stayed, I'd get back up. But now, she was the reason I couldn't stand it all. I bowed my head. I wanted to shake her awake, to demand answers, to let the anger out. But instead, I walked away. I didn't want to hear another lie, even if it was the last one. From that day, I started pulling myself out of this marriage. No rush, no noise, no warning. I woke earlier each morning, came home a little later each night. I asked more about Lily's homework, about Noah's college plans, and I started keeping notes. Every sign, every withdrawal, every suspicious date. I didn't know what I'd do next, but I knew Elena wasn't the only one getting ready to leave. From that day on, I lived as 2 different men. By day, I was Samuel, the bridge engineer, the dad who made morning coffee for his daughter, the calm man with a newspaper on weekends. But at night, I was Samuel with note files, printed receipts, screenshots of bank statements, and quiet meetings with an old friend, a retired police investigator. I wasn't trying to hold on to Elena. I was holding on to myself, to keep from falling into the pit of hurt. Because I knew, the harder you try to keep someone who's already leaving, the smaller you make yourself. And I wanted to write a new script, not play out the old one. Elena started to notice the change. One evening, I came home earlier than usual. She was in the kitchen, flipping through the wall calendar, her pen hovering over Thursday. I asked, something special that day? She froze for a second. The school has an end-of-term seminar. I'm just checking the date. I walked over, glanced at the page. Yeah, you should plan it well, because anything worth investing in takes time and loyalty. She looked up at me, longer than usual. I just sipped my coffee and walked into the living room. No more words, because words can cover things up. Silence makes people think. I started being more present at home, on time, in the right place. I helped Noah choose college books. I planned weekend outings with Lily, a new tradition. Elena watched and started to tense up. One late night, I heard her on the phone. The door was half open. I'm not sure anymore. He's different. Not angry, not asking questions. But it's like, he knows everything. Do you think he's testing me? The voice on the other end was faint, but I knew the name. Elena paused, then whispered, if he knows, I'm afraid he won't forgive me. Not because he's jealous, but because he always walks away without warning. I stepped back into my office, sat at my desk, opened the file named Day 1. I typed a new line. She's starting to panic, but she hasn't stopped. 2 weeks later, my private investigator friend handed me a folder. Michael Walters, 48, divorced, no kids, corporate soft skills trainer. Everything made sense, except for the part where Elena met him. Every Thursday. Same time, same room, same hotel, and the bill was always under his name, M. Walters. I looked at the photos taken from a distance. A middle-aged man, well-dressed, steady smile. I didn't feel jealous, just tired. That night at dinner, Elena asked, "How do I seem to you lately?" I chewed slowly, took a sip of water. "Busy, but I'm sure you know exactly what you're investing in." She set her chopsticks down. I looked at my bowl of rice and knew the battle had begun. Not with shouting, not with tears, but with two people fully aware they no longer belonged to each other. I didn't know when I'd act, but I knew when the time came, I wouldn't need anger. My silence would say it all. After that dinner, Elena became careful. Her schedule suddenly neat, almost too neat. Her phone always locked, never left behind. She ate dinner on time, asked the kids more questions, as if rehearsing for a part. And I said nothing. I just showed up. I went to work on time, came home on time. I washed my own glass, ironed my own shirts, and every night I sat reading in the living room, next to my daughter, instead of in the bedroom. One night, I was reading The Road, a book I'd bought for Noah, when Lily slid closer. She looked toward her mom, then asked quietly, "Dad, is Mom sad?" I stroked her hair. Sometimes grown-ups are sad, because they don't know how to be honest with each other. She looked at me for a moment, then turned away. I knew she didn't fully understand, but she could feel the distance, the kind adults like to ignore. That night, as I was clearing my desk, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number, just one line with a photo attached. "They still meet every week. You deserve to know." In the photo, Elena leaving the hotel with Michael Walters, both in sunglasses, 3 steps apart, walking in the same direction. I didn't reply, didn't delete the photo. I just saved it and turned off my phone, because truth doesn't need to come all at once. It only needs to come at the right time. The next morning, I woke up earlier than usual, made coffee for myself, and a small cup for Elena. Like I used to, placed it on the table, her usual seat. She walked in, surprised. "You made me coffee today." I nodded. "Yeah, some habits are worth keeping, if they're still real." She stood there for a moment, didn't touch the cup. I didn't say anything more. That afternoon, I picked Lily up early, bought her favorite tarts. When Elena came home, she saw us setting the table, jazz playing softly. She stopped at the door for a few seconds, didn't come in right away. I knew that look. Not jealousy, not regret, fear. Fear of being edged out of a family she'd already left in silence. Late that night, she came into my office while I was sorting papers. "Do you want to talk?" I looked straight at her. "If you want to tell the truth, it's always the right time. But if you're just talking to hold on to something, don't bother, because you know better than anyone. It's already gone." "Das." She stayed quiet. I set 2 stacks of papers on the desk. One, a list of bills, photos, evidence. The other, documents transferring our savings account to Lily and Noah. I don't want to keep anything except peace for the kids. I didn't feel the same pain anymore, because now I knew exactly who I was, and I didn't need anyone to prove it with false loyalty. And then, something I didn't expect happened. As I was leaving my office, about to turn off the light, Elena called out, "Samuel, there's something I think you need to know, but I've never had the courage to tell you." I stopped in the doorway of my office. It was late. The hallway light cut a slanted beam across the carpet. I didn't turn around, just stood there. Something in her voice sent a chill straight down my spine. I turned back, slowly, and sat on the edge of the chair. Said nothing. Didn't press her. I waited. Elena sat across from me, hands clenched, head slightly bowed. She didn't look like someone about to confess a crime. She looked like someone afraid this was her last chance to be understood. 3 years ago, I had a full checkup. It was supposed to be routine, But the doctor called me back. They said I was high risk for early-stage breast cancer. Thou, I froze. It felt like the air in the room stopped moving. I didn't tell you. Not because I didn't trust you, but because I was scared. I didn't want you to see me weak. I didn't want the kids to be afraid. Didn't want you to worry. I didn't want to be a burden. Dash. She took a long breath. During that time, I joined a support group. Michael was the facilitator. Dasi. I looked at her, really looked, for the first time in months. What is Michael to you? My voice was low. Elena's answer was almost a whisper. Someone I could be weak in front of? No pretending to be a wife, or a mother, or the strong one. Just a frightened woman, looking for something to hold on to. Dash. I swallowed. Inside me, two voices argued. Is this the truth? Or a beautiful story she built, knowing she has nothing left to keep me? Or is it both? I never slept with him, Samuel. But I know. I betrayed you, not with my body, but with trust and with silence. Dang. She met my eyes, with nothing left to hide. If one day I'm gone, I want you to know I was wrong, and I regret it. Dash. I leaned back, closed my eyes, not because I was tired, but because I didn't want her to see them. I stood, said nothing. My fist closed loosely, then fell against my thigh, and I walked out of the room. Through the living room window, moonlight fell across the coffee cup. I'd made her that morning, still full, untouched. On the rim, a faded trace of lipstick. Beside it, a crumpled napkin, placed neatly, as if someone was still trying to keep their dignity one last time. I didn't know whether to hold on or let go, but I knew I'd just crossed a line, and nothing after this would ever be the same. I didn't sleep that night, sat on the couch, watching the clock tick through the slow hours, like it was counting down to another life. 1 a.m. 2 a.m. 2:47. With each passing minute, I asked myself, if she's telling the truth, am I too cruel for staying silent? If she's lying, is this the last net to catch what little pity I have left? I had no proof, only the tearing inside me, and the rest was silence. I remembered years ago, Elena held my hand at my father's funeral. We sat side by side for 3 hours, didn't speak, but never let go. I once thought, the woman who can sit in silence with you in grief is the one who can walk with you to the very end. And now, she was doing the same, but in the silence of betrayal. Near dawn, I went into the bedroom. Elena lay with her back to me, not pretending to sleep. I sat on the edge of the bed, my voice low. I can't forget what you've done, but I also can't forget who you once were to me. I don't know if I love you the same anymore, but I don't want hatred to be the last thing left between us. She said nothing. Her shoulders trembled. I stood, quietly, without comforting her, without touching her. The next morning, I left a handwritten letter on the kitchen counter, next to yesterday's untouched coffee. In it I wrote, you have 2 choices. 1. Come with me for another health check. Tell the truth to the kids. 2. Stay silent, and I'll be the one to leave. No blame. No public scene. Das. If you choose the first, I'll stay, not to forgive, but to start again, clearer, and with limits. Sash. That afternoon, I took Lily to the park. Soft sunlight. She laughed on the swings, hair flying in the breeze. I stood at the edge, phone in hand. A message lit up the screen. Monday, 9 a.m. Central General Hospital. I booked the appointment. I didn't open it, just watched it glow, then fade in my hand. Trust now is no longer a lifetime contract. It's a choice, with conditions, and an endpoint. I once trusted without conditions, and lost myself. This time, if I trust again, I'll be the one who writes the rules. Monday, 8:40 a.m. I waited outside the hospital lobby, coffee in my hand, still hot, but without taste. The Monday sun cut through the glass, bright, almost harsh. People moved past me, all in a hurry, all headed somewhere, to deal with their own piece of life. 8:56. Elena arrived. Gray coat, hair tied low, worn sneakers, no makeup, no avoiding my eyes. We nodded, like strangers who used to know each other, and walked in. The waiting room was nearly empty. We sat far enough apart that someone could have slipped between us, but no one did. I stayed silent. Elena laced her fingers, tight, as if tying them down to stop the shaking. "Thank you for coming," her voice soft, like even the air could shatter. I didn't answer. Some words should have been spoken. Months ago, when trust was still whole, the nurse called her name. She stood, looked at me, not pleading, not asking permission. Just a look that said, "If you still want the truth, I'll let you have it." I nodded. Almost an hour later, she came back, a folder in one hand, an MRI result in the other. We left the hospital, still without a question between us. A small cafe on the corner. Elena sat across from me, ordered ginger tea. I asked for water. Light spilled through the thin curtain, stretching long across the wooden table. She opened the folder. No small talk. Cells are clear. No signs of concern anymore. Maybe last time was an early warning, or my body corrected itself. DC. She looked up. I didn't lie, but I stayed silent for too long. I stared at the paper. A cloud of thoughts rose in me, light as smoke, but lingering. "The truth is," she continued, "I've known this result for almost 3 months, but I didn't dare tell you." I looked at her. "I was afraid that if I told you I was fine, there'd be no reason left for you to stay." That didn't stab like a knife. It pricked like a needle, small, but deep and lasting. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I've lost that right, but I hope, after all this, you'll live lighter, with me or without me. Dash. Her tea had gone cold. She didn't drink it. And me? I just stared at my water glass, as if waiting for it to shatter and tell me whether to stay or go. I set the glass down. No sigh. No more questions. Silence, as if everything that needed to be understood had already settled into the space between us. "Do you want to ask anything?" she whispered. I looked at her for a few seconds, then shook my head. "No." I stood, walked to the counter, paid for both. Back at the table, I took a small envelope from my coat and placed it in front of her. She looked at it, didn't touch it, as if she already knew what was inside. Draft of the property agreement. I won't sue. No lawyers. No talk of fault to anyone. Dying. The house stays with you and the kids. I'll move out in 2 weeks. If you want to leave instead, I'll rent you a place, close to Lily's school. Das. My voice was steady, like I was discussing a job transfer. I'm not leaving because I hate you. I'm leaving because I can't trust myself to be your husband completely anymore. She bowed her head. Fingers tightened on the envelope, then let go. If I'd told you sooner, if I hadn't hidden it, would things be different? I nodded. Maybe, but I also think, if I hadn't trusted you blindly that day, I wouldn't have to learn how to trust someone again now. Then, before leaving, I set the house keys down beside the envelope. The metal hit the wood, soft, but heavy. No more words. We walked out together. I let her take a few steps ahead. Didn't avoid her. Didn't follow. At the intersection, the light turned red. She looked back. The late afternoon light washed her face in gold, fading, like an old photograph. She nodded, without waiting for mine. I nodded back, without stepping forward. That afternoon, I went home and began packing. A wedding photo slipped from the drawer. Elena in white, me in a gray suit, hands clasped, eyes clear. I picked it up, didn't hold it long. Just placed it in the last box. Not thrown away, not kept in sight. Evening light slanted through the window, casting a long streak across the wooden floor. I sat on the edge of the bed, one hand around a cold coffee cup, the other resting on my thigh, empty. There are people you once loved completely, and then you have to learn to love them in a different way, by letting go, at the right time, the right way, with nothing left to hold on to. I moved out on a Saturday morning. No rain, no sun. The sky was gray, not sad, not cheerful, as if even the weather couldn't decide whether to hold on or let go. I didn't take much. A few sets of clothes, my coffee machine, the old armchair, a notebook, and a family photo, taken out of its frame, slipped between the pages. The new apartment was small. The window looked out onto a tree-lined street. No sound of children calling Dad. No water running in the bathtub at midnight. No one asking, "Milk in your coffee," or just black. Just me and the click of the coffee cup. Every morning, I started learning how to live alone again. Not lonely, just empty. And sometimes that emptiness is exactly what you need to start over. I no longer check my phone every time a notification pops up. I no longer hope for another person at the dinner table. And I no longer search for reasons to keep a relationship that exists only out of duty. I don't blame Elena. I understand not everyone is strong enough to be honest. And not every love is strong enough to survive the truth. Some people hurt you, not because they're cruel, but because they're afraid. Afraid of losing, afraid of being left behind, and sometimes afraid of themselves. Forgiving doesn't mean keeping. Forgiving is letting go without swallowing the bitterness. I still see Elena. Every weekend, when I pick up Lily, we greet each other with a nod. Not trying to be friends, not who we used to be. We're two new people, passing by each other, bit by bit, with silent respect. One day, Lily asked me, "Dad, do you still love Mom?" I patted her head, smiled. Love doesn't always mean staying. I chose to leave, so I wouldn't hurt her, and so I wouldn't hurt myself. Thus, I told her, not everyone who leaves first is the winner. Not everyone who stays is the loser. Each of us has our own way to live honestly after the truth comes out. Love, if it's deep enough, will never need lies to survive. And if it can't live in the light, then it was never love to begin with. I lost Elena, but maybe I found the man I used to be, the one I'd forgotten, while trying to carry a marriage already rotting from the inside. That morning, as I folded the last shirt into my suitcase, I looked around the room one last time. No regret, no pain, just the calm of someone who's already chosen. I put my hand on the doorknob, didn't look back, because sometimes not being able to save something is exactly how you save yourself.